Welcome to Minding My Business. This is a platform created for women who are wanting to elevate their business, their mindset, and their life. If you want to catch these episodes live, tune in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Instagram at Tanya C. Oliver, where each week I'll be interviewing a powerhouse guest. So everybody, this is the powerhouse, Miss Emily Ford. She's a host of the It Factor podcast. She's a transformational speaker and a mentor to many. Emily is a global business leader who helps others find and cultivate their it factor. Did you get it?
Oh, girl, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay, I've been stalking you. I've been just really admired about the work that you're doing. I saw your sponsorship ad on Instagram, and I was just kind of cruising through your Instagram. I was like, wow, this woman is just doing amazing things, and I would just love to interview you and spread the light, the wisdom, and get to know you, and hopefully we can serve some people today. So thank you for blessing us up.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to connect with you, and ask me whatever you want, girl.
Okay.
I'm like an open book.
Well, this show is more geared to celebrate women that have created a lane for themselves and also to help others elevate their business, their mindset, and their life. That's typically the core of the show, but we do get into a lot of things. So we're really excited to have you guys here. And first off, I guess my main question is, what got you into personal growth and branding for that to be like your thing of your messaging into helping other people?
I love this. Well, gosh, it was like 14 years ago where I got into network marketing, and I quickly realized I'm not just gonna like post on social media and sell products, and like that doesn't work. I need to do attraction marketing, and I actually need to add value to people's lives and not just sell. And this was when I was 23 years old. And so I had 900 Facebook friends, no Instagram, no following whatsoever. And I just started to say and ask myself, Emily, what do you know that can serve people? And how can you teach people stuff that you already know? And so organically, it started to happen where I just came from the mindset of what can I give instead of what can I get, in terms of, even though I needed to build my business, I was like, I need to look at this as this free gift, this free tool, social media, we all have it. And I'm going to come at it from a way of giving instead of getting. Right. And so that led me to building, a huge company, huge business. And then throughout the years, like over a decade of really learning personal branding and studying the game and, learning from Gary V and all the different people out there, I've really realized like what connects people and what doesn't. And even if we're talking about a traditional brand, still the millennials and younger, they want to know like who's the driving force behind the brand, who's selling the thing, what's their mission. And I'm just so obsessed with helping people win in their arena, and like literally just like looking at something and going, okay, here's how we can make it better. Here's how we can make people connect to your message better. And here's how we can really extract your greatness and what you already know, so it doesn't feel fake, because I think a lot of people do social and it feels very forced. And so that's how I'm doing what I am today.
That's so beautiful, because one of the core things that, I'm always curious about is, and I know many other women are as well, men and women, but of course we want to celebrate our women and know that we can be great alliances, great alliances. There's no competition. We're creators. So let's become alliances. And one of the core questions is to understand the beauty of the work behind the work, and that you have worked really hard to build yourself into this type of woman that your business is an extension of, right? So people, I think, need to understand that more. So would you be able to share maybe some of like your non-negotiables, run us through like a daily routine of how you keep yourself operating at the way that you continue to operate?
Oh my goodness. Yes, it's everything, our energy, our frequency is everything. Everything in your life is a result of the frequency that you're everything. And, whether you're trying to do business, fall in love, be fit, healthy, like everything matters. And so the best thing we can ever do is take personal responsibility. And I learned that early on and really started to look at my life and every result I was getting, and instead of blaming people or complaining about circumstances, I decided, no, I want to be the driver. Like, who's driving the bus? I'm driving the bus. And so I want to control what I can control. And with that being said, doing personal development, spiritual development is essential for me and my life. And I mean, I just got done. I just got done reading my prayer journal, journaling over here. Like every single day, this is what I do. And in the morning, it usually starts off. Today, I did like a couple different worship songs and meditated and prayed my way through it. If my mind is really busy, instead of just cold meditating, I'll do more of like a worship hybrid style tends to work for me. And, I do practice gratitude prayers, and then I read a little bit of a scripture. And, it's so important to, read, I believe, God's word, because it's not just like listening to a podcast or listening to a sermon. When you read God's word, it's speaking to you and you're getting what he wants you to get. And, that's what I've been doing for a very long time. And I feel like that's my superpower because I'm really listening to my higher power of what I should create, what I should do. And I'm not constantly just being reminded of my greatness every day. And I don't get that from validation from social media, which I think we can all, fall to that trap. And so, it's huge for me. There's like people that, I love so much, but they're not in my direct life because they'll knock me off course, right? I don't deal with any of that toxic behavior. It's just not my circus, not my monkeys. And, I believe like I've been able to create and do the work that I have because I've really set a standard for my life and I've stuck to it over the course of the last decade.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned you have like your prayers, your non-negotiables. Like these are the things, these are the principles you guys are talking about, that this is the work behind the work. Like these are things that core principles that Emily uses in order to operate in the way that we get to experience the best of her, not like secondhand versions of her. And so thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else? I mean, you're fit. I don't think
Oh yeah,
mentioned your
yeah. I mean,
you
oh my gosh,
know everything.
yeah. So after I do my little morning sesh with for my heart set, right? There's heart set, there's mindset, and yeah, and then there's the physical side. And I think leadership is about the whole being. It's not about just what we know and how we can crush business, or maybe we're good at sales or one area. If you don't have the whole being, and if you don't work the whole being, then you're going to miss out. Either you're going to end up not having energy to sustain what you've created because you're not healthy, or you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to lose a lot of money and your ego is going to get in the way because you didn't work your heart set. And so the physical side of it, I love that you bring that up. Yeah, I'm huge on functional mobility, and everything I do is about longevity and performance, because I am a high performer. And so what I do is it's called Three Form. Stephen Pastorino, he's a great trainer out of New York City, and GQ actually dubbed him as the ass master like back in the day because he helped a lot of Victoria's Secret models. But then every day moms would come in the gym and they were like, hey, I want to look like that. And he's like, well, you can't train like a linebacker then, you know? And so I do a lot of like lengthening hip mobility, all of our trauma dramas in our hips. And so I'm doing a lot of that opening up, stretching and a lot of band work, walking, things like that. And so it really just depends on the time. Sometimes it's a 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour workout. But yeah, definitely move my body for sure. And then, you know, it's the same thing. I can do this in the hotel room or when I'm traveling. But then I really focus, you know, more on my nutrition than
Yeah.
even working out.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, even our food impacts our pineal gland, our cognition, like all that stuff. And I think, you know, as entrepreneurs and high performing entrepreneurs or wanting to become elite entrepreneurs, right? Because we have a coming phase that you understand the physical so impactful. And, you know, that's what I try to share on the show is like it's everything if you want to operate.
Mhm.
Speaking of, I mean, let me ask you this: have you always been built like this? Because I think people look at you and like, oh, it's just Emily. Emily's just Emily, right? They look at how you are. You're gorgeous. You're fit. You're intelligent. You're powerful. You're in your high frequency. And I mean, have you always been operating like this?
Oh my goodness, you're so kind. Thank you for that. You know, definitely not. I'll say two parts of it though. Like I was raised by a single mama and I'm the baby. And so, you know, I grew up super fast.
Mhm.
Like to the point that it robbed me of my childhood. I didn't experience, you know, the love of my life recently took me to Disney and you know, I never experienced that growing up. I didn't go to the ocean until I grew up in Minnesota. I live in Southern California now, but like I didn't go to the ocean until I was 18. Like we didn't have the funds to do this kind of stuff. And, you know, I grew up in the first almost decade of my life where it was very toxic and, you know, abusive live-in boyfriend and I was alone a lot. And so to be quite transparent, you know, I always had a strange connection to the light and that I had another brother who passed away. It was a tragic accident and a lot of trauma in my family. And I always felt like he was an angel in my life or something was protecting me because, you know, I turned out like a really good young kid, but I believe like I just had to be independent. Like I could never rely on anybody else. Like I had to be independent. And so with that, you know, it made me be really responsible. And in no matter what I did, I always have done it to the best of my ability. And, you know, to much is given, much is required. And you know, when I grew up and when my mom finally got that guy out of our house, you know, she bought her first tiny little house. It was like this tiny little doll house almost. And the way she cared for it and like even like, you know, she would sweep the floors every night and, you know, no dishes in the sink and you know, going up to the house, she would put flowers up and down the sidewalk and I mean, we didn't have a lot, but everything we had was well kept and cared for. And I have taken, I think that, and I've just baked it into my whole world of what I do now. So that made me a lot of who I am. Like I just take care of things and I try to be a good steward with the people God blesses me with to serve and then the life I have today. I just try to be a good steward. But I will say, you know, I'm just so hungry. I'm so hungry to learn. I am never like it's never finished. Like school's never out for the pro. And I'm constantly seeking new pathways to learn to grow. And if I don't know something, I'm like, okay, how can I take a course on this? How can I learn this? And so there's just so much hunger in me because I know that my purpose is so much bigger than myself and I gotta do it so I can help other people.
Mhm. I love that. I think that also comes back to the beginning of what you were saying is like from the very beginning, you claimed personal responsibility.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we're all human, as we all know. When you know that you are yellow lighting, I call it yellow lighting because kind of base my personal energy on like a light system. Like if I'm red lighting, if I'm yellow lighting, if I'm green lighting. But when you feel like you're yellow lighting where you're like off, you're like in a
Mm.
vibe or you're in a mood, what tools do you use that really help you quickly get back into the green? Or even if you're red lighting, because life happens, right? We have deaths, we have business stuff, we have like so many things that life throws at us.
Gosh, I love this terminology. So good. And I'll say even last night, like I'm an empath and outgoing introvert. So, and so many people are like shocked by this, but even yesterday. So, I'm starting to write my book and this whole process, I'm like this uh, emotional. I feel
Congratulations.
thank you. I feel like I'm birthing something though, and I'm like, and I am like I'm digging so deep. I've never dug this deep into my soul ever. And so I write this post yesterday morning all about, finding love and allowing love in, a little bit of my love story and my journey with being an independent woman and stuff. And the DM messages were like so overwhelming of people feeling lonely and people feeling like, especially women, like I'm never going to find a man that respects me. And it just last night I was just like sobbing in my bed and I'm like, okay, I got to take like an Emily timeout, because I just feel so deeply. And I'm like, I want to be able to help all these people. And what I'm trying to say is when you're empathetic or even just human and something bad happens, it can take you off course. And so I always just pause, take an Emily timeout, and like even last night, I took a bath, I put on some worship music, and I just kind of marinated on some of the messages I read, and I was thinking like, okay, how am I going to serve them on a grander scale? And I turned it from like taking on all their emotion to like, what am I going to do with this information to help them? And I always try to look at everything from the lens of what is this teaching me right now? Like, or I also look at it like if it's rejection, like, hey, we thought we were going to do this business deal and then now it doesn't go through, or hey, I thought I was going to get a speaking gig and now they changed their mind, or whatever. I always try to look at it as God's protection. Like there has to be another way. And, when I am feeling low energy or something like that, sometimes it's simply because I just need a freaking break. And I'm not a robot. And, and I deeply discussed this with my partner, Jake, because I said, you're a man, I'm a woman. We have completely different energies. And I'm like, I don't want to work late into the night, honey. I get it done early in the day. Like you can go, and it was just explaining even that and just being like, okay, like I am not going to beat myself up if I'm not constantly pushing and pushing and pushing. I prefer to be in like a flow state, right? And so if I feel like it's being forced, I just kind of go like this and walk away from it. But my other last tip I would say is that when I'm in a funk, I do as much as I can to help somebody. And when that happens, it completely shifts my whole funky monkeyness and it turns me into like, oh my gosh, I remember why I'm doing this and I feel good now. And, I just think we can be also very selfish at times. And it's like this woe is me mindset, and reality is like we actually have it pretty good. And I think if we just turn it around, we're able to feel so much better. And that's what I do. I'll literally like call someone, be like, who can I help today? And when I do that, it's like, okay, she's back.
Yeah, yeah. But are you able, because this is I think a really important one, especially for women, is being able to discern and know the difference between when you do need to pour into yourself so that you are capable of pouring in other people, because they even say in scripture you can't pour from like an empty cup. So like, because you mentioned two case scenarios and being able to know the difference in the timing, because if you try to pour in an empty cup when you have nothing to give, it's almost make, because I used to be in that season and I was getting a resentful towards it because like I'm drained.
Oh, 100%. And, I believe like God's trying to tell us something when you feel that way. And it might even be a season of transition when you're feeling drained because you need to leave that old thing. And it's like, God is like, how many times do I need to tell you, like, this old season's done? And it might make you feel drained. And, so I feel like that can happen as well. But what I love to do, and I theme my days, theme my weeks, and I'm very intuitive when it comes to how I'm actually doing. And it's so I think you have to read between the lines as, is this me having excuses because I don't want to, get out of my comfort zone and face my fears and make the call that could change it all, or do something significant for my business? So is it that camp, or is it the camp of, no, you need to take a time out, right? And so I've really learned to like identify which is it and then honor which it is. And so if I'm avoiding the hard work and I'm not feeling it today, well, then come on, like we need discipline, we need devotion, like we absolutely do. Where's your zeal? And, I always train on passion versus zeal. And it's like passion is fleeting, but zeal, it's about having, like what gives you zeal in your life, which is going to absolutely give you devotion to something. And so for me, what breaks my heart is my purpose. And that's what gives me zeal to keep going, even on the days I don't feel like it. However, I know that I have to continually take care of myself. And I do that every day in terms of setting standards. So like there was like, I don't even know how many texts when I woke up this morning. And, I have an international business, do all these things. We all have these things, but I don't even answer them until I step foot in this office. Like everybody else's agendas is not mine. I don't care. I literally don't. Unless it's like an SOS and one of my team members is like, I have to have you sign this contract right now or make this decision. I don't care. I'm filling my cup and that's the priority. Okay. So there's that. But then I also every Thursday, unless it's like an exception of the rule, every Thursday is like a Emily free day. So that's when I get a massage, or I'll just go lay at the pool, or I don't know. Like I literally do whatever that day. I might write. I might work if I feel like it. There's no obligation for anything.
No
And
schedule.
so, yeah. So I learned that because I was getting burnt out every week if I didn't do that. Like I was literally getting burnt out every week. And it's like, it's because the life of an entrepreneur, there's no time frame.
Yeah.
So we live,
Yeah.
so we live in guilt all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned the word zeal. I've never heard of the word zeal. So I humbly ask, what does zeal mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's about like, we can look up the exact definition, but it's basically, I mean, it's in the Bible like 27 times, something like that. Like the disciples had a great deal of zeal, and
Ah,
meaning it's like the word passion, but passion, like I said, it comes and goes.
yeah.
Zeal is about being dedicated and devoted to something, so that when the passion does go, because it will. I mean, even if we're talking about love, if we're talking
Mhm.
about commitment, if we're talking about, the thing I see most when I coach people is on a Monday, they're so excited about XYZ business opportunity. And then by the time, the Friday rolls around, they're nowhere to be found. It's because they're building their whole life on passion instead of commitment and discipline.
Yeah. So I did look it up. I'm like a word girl. It says
Oh,
great energy or enthusiasm, and that's actually my word of the year, in pursuit of a cause or an object. So like you're saying, the cause is like your purpose, and to do it enthusiastically. I was looking up the word because sometimes I think we have wavering faith versus unwavering faith. And what I found was when we have that wavering faith can come the opposite of enthusiasm, which is apathy. And it's almost like when we pray, but we expect to not get our prayers. So I've been digging deep on this one. I know. So I'm like, oh, there's that enthusiasm word when you're saying that. Yeah.
oh, that's so good. Yeah,
And
love that.
you mentioned in here, I love this, how you're talking about in season, because I truly believe that entrepreneurship is a sport and we have to decide what level we're going to play on. And I love that you're saying like the season and knowing when that season ends. That how do you know when to pivot and it's time to transition into the next season? Or
My goodness.
personally, for you personally, because remember, this is the woman behind the business. So when you personally know it's time for you to pivot in your next season.
Hmm. Yeah, so there's different projects we do, there's different things we can build, and then there's like new seasons, right? I mean, I kind of look at it as like the season, I grew up in Minnesota, there's 4 seasons, and it's like, okay, winter's done, summer's, spring's here, summer's here. It's like completely different wardrobe. It's like we don't need the fur jackets anymore. We don't need the fog, we don't need all that stuff, the boots, and
Don't
it's
have that
dramatic.
anymore.
Okay. So it's dramatic though. And, I think it doesn't happen in one day where it's like, poof, it's done. I think you start to get signals, and the more you're in tune, you're like, something's up, and it's like, you just don't feel it. We hear these things. I don't feel it anymore. I'm not as passionate about it anymore. Or your time might just be up. Like you squeezed the lemon. You made the lemonade. Like you squeezed it. And, it depends on how you're wired. Like my human, Tony Robbins talks about the 6 human needs. Mine is growth and contribution. Those are my top two. And if I'm not growing or contributing, I feel blasé. And so, there's been times in my career where I'm like, I could do this with my eyes closed. I'm so bored. I'm not challenged. And I feel that I've grown past this. And so, these are key things that happen where you can either sit in your own misery and complain about it, or you can say, okay, I'm going to go on a quest and discover what's next for me. And, try on a couple of things and see what feels good. And that's what I think is healthy to do. And then, depending on what it's going to move into, if you're going to create a new company out of it, or, maybe it's just like a new season move. I don't know. It's acting on it. And so building things around your life that's going to support that new goal, that new mission. And so, you know, that's what I've recently been through. I'm stepping out in a big way on a many levels, even in my speaking career with the book. There's so many things I'm doing now, companies I'm building, and I couldn't not listen. Like I couldn't. It's like the God whispers were getting so loud that I'm like, I get it. Okay, it was like, how many times am I going to tell you, Emily? It was just like over and over again. And then, I realized I have to be obedient to this and really listen. But the thing of it is, I think most people don't give themselves enough space and time and discipline to even listen. So if you're a 24/7 robot or you're on Instagram all the time, you're never going to hear anything,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know?
noticed a lot too with our type of personality of like the very extremist personality is what you mentioned earlier about the zeal, right? You
Mhm.
mentioned that word and knowing, am I doing it in passion or am I doing it because I actually need to do discipline? Because sometimes you're not going to be passionate, you're not going to be excited. And what I've noticed is, and even in myself, right? Because everything's a mirror, is that the addiction to stimulation at times, the confusion of, am I bored or am I just hooked on that stimulation of from project to project to project, or starting this business or doing this business, and not sticking with one thing long enough to allow it to harvest or for the
Mhm.
roots to go down. Is that something that you've ever struggled with as a high-end elite entrepreneur?
You know, it's something that I've been gifted with not struggling with. And what I mean by that is like, I tend to, so once the idea is birthed and I feel like it's a yes,
Mhm.
I hyper focus. So I have the ability to like, I mean, the best way to say it is like, it's like the horse with the blinders on. And I do believe that's been one of my superpowers. So, like with my first business, I started when I was 23. I mean, I became a millionaire by the time I was 26 because of the fact that I'm all in or I'm all out.
Mhm.
And I'm like, there's no halfway. And I look at the reality of what we're actually doing and what it actually takes. And so people like to do inspiration all day long, and I love inspo, but I also like to marry that with a whole heck of a lot of reality. And so, you know, when I looked at my first business, I was like, oh, okay. So people are not numbers, but this is a numbers game. I need this much volume to be going through to create this much business. And for me, it was like, okay, well, if I only have one business meeting a day, then it's going to take me 10 years to get to my goal. So how about we condense time frames and set up a lot more meetings in one day? And how about we keep the main thing until. And so that's really what I do with hyper focus. Now, what's happened to me now in this day and age is that I have a lot more opportunities. And so, you know, in the beginning, it was like just me, like doing my thing, right? Like nobody really cared to interview me. There, you know, it was a lot easier to focus. I think the challenge with people that start to gain influence is there's a lot of people begging for your attention. And so you have to go, okay, what's worth my time? What is actually essential right now? What's actually stealing away from the thing that I need to create, right? What's just feeding the ego, or what's really needed, right? And so that's the thing. I mean, my gosh, most people would already have what they desire if they just put in the actual work it takes to do it. I mean, it's like the 10,000 hour Malcolm Gladwell. It's like people are like, well, how did you become a speaker? Well, I did it for free for a long time. For a long time, it was free.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And it's like repetitions, like working out, like you mentioned, it's a daily practice. It's not just like a one and done. And when it comes to, as far as like, I guess there's so many things I want to ask you. When it comes to the core values of, because you're mentioning, I feel like there's like patterns going on in this conversation, which I love, is you always come back to like your core value, which is God centered. And when you're discerning or deciding like what you're going to place yourself in, learning to, I guess the word comes down to self trust, right? Trusting that higher version of yourself. And what would you say, like, one of the core things to build that self trust and that connection to hearing which voice? Is it the voice of God from higher self, or is it the voice from ego? Because you did mention that a few times. Like, which voice
Mm.
wins? How do you know which voice is the right voice?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's all about being in tune. It's the daily practice because you could be in a meeting where somebody's like feeding your ego and you're like, oh my gosh, the psychology's going hard. You're like, this would be, oh wow, this would be so good. I've been in meetings where I've been presented things, I've been offered things, and my ego was like, oh yeah. And then I come home and I just kind of sit in it in a little bit. That's why you should never make any decisions on the spot unless it's like a divine appointment and it's just, right? And so I
Mhm.
come home and then I'm like, I really like analyze the situation. And sometimes you need to talk it out, things like that. But I know in my heart of hearts, like, this ain't right. This isn't right for the brand. This isn't my calling. Is this the kind of image I want to portray? No, it's not at all. And so it takes introspection
Mhm.
matched with prayer, right? Matched with knowing, like for me, like you said, it's the values. And, my values, like I reinstate them every day. It's the renewing of your mind every single day. Like we don't just bathe once, we have to do it every single day. And so I'm constantly trying to renew my mind and asking God to help me make the right decisions for his will and purpose on my life. And so I'm constantly asking. And I just don't think we pray bold enough prayers. I don't think we ask enough. And when you ask enough, you will receive. But again, it's this constant meditative practice. And, I trust that he is guiding my footsteps. I completely trust that he is doing that. And, it's not my own. It's not my own. And so, the how with that, I think it's a lot of things baked together. Again, I think it's how you build your days, how you build your life. And that helps you with the refining process of leaning in. And it may take, like, it took me almost a year to get clarity on one thing, of a year of asking, a year of the drought, a year of asking, a year of the drought, a year of questioning, a year of asking. And I didn't hear a loud, resounding yes. And I was like, I don't know, and it was just like, okay, I'm going to stay faithful. I'm going to stay diligent. I'm going to stay serving. I'm going to stay doing this, even though I feel like it's not working out. And then boom, it was like answered prayer, right? And it's like, and that's how God works. It's not on our timeline. It's
Mhm.
not. And so I feel like if you stay faithful in the drought, eventually you're going to have the harvest.
Mm. And thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people look at somebody like yourself and they're like, oh, so it happens right away. And I love that you said, like, I had a year of drought season where it was, but these are real things, like you don't think because it's you. So when you say something like that, you're like, oh, but I want to know what's the answer. Come on. And then that's where that wavering faith comes. Like, you didn't give
Right.
me what I wanted, or you didn't answer this. And you're mentioning like that unwavering faith. Like, this is sometimes what it looks like a drought season. Thank you.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love bringing on my real guests. Like, that's all what this show is about. Um,
Yay.
when okay, this is a. I mean, I feel like all these questions are pretty personal, but this one is pretty deep. And I was always curious about this one.
Hmm.
But who did you, or the season that you're in right now, like, to build the woman that you are today in the present moment? Who did you have to become, and what did you have to overcome in order to be her?
Oh, whoop, girl. Okay. Well, like I said, it's a daily process. I would say one of the biggest life hacks is having mentors.
Mm.
And, again, it's like I didn't grow up in an environment where there was endless possibilities and build wealth and whatever you want to do, go get it, girl. Like I grew up in a very lack mindset financially, limiting belief, self-worth, all of it was there. And so for me, it's just like peeling back the onion and taking steps every single day. The first thing was just realizing how limited my mindset was, especially when it came to self-worth. And so, I did the things like the affirmations. I mean, when I first started my business, I unplugged the TV. I had
Yeah.
little sticky notes all over the TV of affirmations on it, brushing my teeth at night, affirmations on it, but I actually freaking read them. I
Yeah.
actually read every, and made myself my first vision board, and I put it next to my desk. And every morning when I drink coffee, I would stare at it and pray over it and stare at it. And, you know, and the thing I feel like I'm just, I don't, I, listen, I know people talk about fear all the time, but like, I have a good relationship with fear. So if I
Mhm.
don't feel fear at least once a day, I know that I'm not growing. And so I really have learned to have that dance with fear. And I truly believe like that's when you grow the most, is when you
Mhm.
do that thing that scares you, when you make that bold move that's like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm doing this. And I've just chosen to do that. And if I don't do that, I feel like something's almost wrong. Like I didn't like seize the day today, you know? And so it's been this ongoing process of putting myself in a growth environment and failing forward. I'm just willing to fail a lot faster than most people and not beat myself up about it and just go, okay, what's the lesson? Did you learn it? Yep, you learned it. Okay, move on, you know? And so it's been an ongoing process, but through this journey, you know, I'm not afraid to like look at where am I lacking and what am I still holding on to that needs to be let go. And, I just feel like every day I just want to die to myself and just try to lean in and get better. And I'm so fascinated that we have like no limits on our lives and our growth. And I just want to like, by the time I die, I just want to be like, oh, you really tested the limits, Emily. Like you really went there, and I want to do it for other people. I think now, and that's why I'm so moved to like write my book and do this work, is because it's like I'm on the other side of a lot of really painful things. And I know that the world is hurting, and like I cannot keep it to myself.
Mhm.
Like I just can't. I won't. I will not.
Did you notice, because you mentioned the word self-worth a few times, did you notice that as you poured into your self-worth, it impacted your net worth? Or do you feel
Yes.
your net worth? Because I asked this one time on my Instagram. I was really fascinated to see the response of people. Do it on your poll and see how people respond of where the minds are. Or do you feel like our net worth impacts our self-worth?
For me, it is definitely my self-worth impacted my net worth, simply because I guess the easiest way I could explain it is I became more confident and I loved myself more. I had more self-respect. So when it came, if we're talking about net worth, I'm talking about business, I was able to crush meetings because I love myself. I love myself and the choices I make. I am beautiful. These are all things like I would constantly say to myself. I am worthy of living the best love and life has to offer. I am worthy. I would say that over and over and over again. And working on my self-worth and knowing that I'm a daughter of the most high God and I'm royalty. I'm royalty regardless of what I've been through. And, I didn't have a dad. My dad, some know my story, but if you don't, like my dad left my mom in the hospital when I was born because I was a girl and not a boy. And I had a brother who died. And and my mom always said, we're never going to replace Davy. That was my brother's name. who passed, and she was actually so grateful when I was born because she's like, thank God it's a girl. They were going to name me Matthew. This whole thing was planned. So try going through that, learning this when you're young. She made the mistake of telling me when I was young that this happened. So, I mean, that really will get your self-worth going.
Oh,
So the closer that I became to God, I just really realized like, no, I'm unique and divinely created. And that gave me self-worth. And it's like, where's your identity found? And there's been moments in my life, especially at a young age, making a lot of money, where my identity was wrapped up in the wrong things. And I got checked real fast. And, my identity is not found in man-made things. It's not. And so that gives me so much self-worth. Like I have so much, if we had to choose like all the wealth or being a confident, self-loving woman, I would choose the confident, self-loving woman all day long. Don't get me wrong. I definitely love money or like money. It's great. But, it's like, that to me, like that's why I've been able to stand in front of rooms. That's why I've been able to speak up even when my voice shakes, is because I have enough self-worth. And so that's got to come first. And when you have enough self-worth, then you say and ask God to check your heart and posture your heart. And I always say motives matter. Your motives matter. And God knows your motives. And if your motives are pure, people can sense and feel that. But if they're desperate and snaky, people can sense and feel that, And so the net worth takes care of itself if you take care of people. If your heart's in the right place, the net worth, I know I'm always going to be wealthy. I know that I haven't even touched the surface of what I'm going to do yet. I already know it. But I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on my self-worth and I'm focused on what I can do for other people.
And people can feel that. Like you said, people can feel that. And that's why they're gravitating towards you and they feel taken care of. You have that very kind, compassionate, empathetic, light energy about you where you could actually feel like, wow, this woman actually does care. And I know we need more people in the world like you that actually really do care. Because people are like, oh, don't care, don't give a F. And it's like, no, that's a problem. We need to care more. We need to start giving an F. We need to like own our stuff and just care and have compassion. So thank you for being that in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've been wanting to ask this one. I tried not to ask it earlier, but I was reading your stories. I was creeping on your stories. I like to know who I'm bringing on. And I love that you're talking about your journey as a single entrepreneur before you met your husband, right? You guys are married?
Not yet. Like hopefully soon.
Well, your partner.
Yeah.
What is the title?
I
get it wrong.
I know it's weird because he's not my boy. Like he is my boyfriend, but it's like, no, he's not. Like, I feel like we met a month before COVID. And then I had to really do some deep work I wasn't used to like this kind of guy that was just like, so like brings me roses and praise every time before we eat. And everything is so intentional. I was so used to turbulence and chaos and lies and just not, so I really had to, again, go back, do the deep work to allow him and accept him to love me and what that even looks like. And so, yes, we are going down that road, hopefully like super soon here.
Well, that was my fault. I thought it, but
it's okay.
I'm putting the attention for you. There you go. But I love how you were talking about before you had manifested this type of experience in relationship, which is well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There was a season where you had to get clear on your core values, and then you had to work towards becoming the type of woman that would attract and also keep this type of a man. And would you share with us some of those core values, not only in your partnership, but also in the people that you really allow into your heart and into your inner circle? Because, we have we have layers of who comes into the core of our heart.
Oh, yeah. Wow. You are so good, girl. Oh my gosh.
I'm
I just
curious.
love,
That's
I,
why
yeah,
often.
yeah. So, basically, and your environment, it's the law of your environment. I was living in LA. I live in Orange County now. It's like two different worlds, even though it's Southern California. And I was living in LA and, I was just surrounded by people that it's all about, okay, if you're going on a date, what car does he drive? What does he do? And it was like I was just hearing so many different things. I wasn't clear on the kind of man that I wanted. Like I knew I deserved a lot, I knew that, but like, and I was also guarded because, I had been in previous relationships where things happened. I trusted a lot and then things happened, which is normal. And so I got, burned in some ways and just kind of like I felt like very let down. And so I went on a period where I was single and I just said, I have to heal from all this before I pursue another relationship. And really, when that dawned on me, as I was, going on a couple dates here or there, and I already had the values of, I'm not the girl that I don't go. This is just so raw. I wouldn't go home with someone. I'm not that girl. I would never, right? Like it's not in me. Like, and I was going on dates, and I was just like, okay, you're literally just talking about what company you have, the things you have. There's no substance. And I was like, I'm done. Like this is, and it's LA. It's so different here.
Mhm.
Okay.
I live in my,
And
I get it.
okay. Yeah, you totally get it. I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done. And I'm like, okay. So I called my girlfriend and she's a realtor in town. And I said, listen, if it's not God and healing and going deep and then working on our empire and in our health, I don't want a part of it. So let's just go on this mission. And she's like, I'm all in because she's single too. And we're both like red, independent. And she's like, I'm so done. And I'm like, I'm done too. And so we go find this local church. We end up volunteering. Like I'm literally like the door greeter and we go all in on it. And it's like every day we're like reading the Bible and every day we're just like total immersion. We're just like, we're just like all in and it's like, okay. And then we're building our businesses and then we're working out together and we're all in. And, this was the season that and then I was going to therapy like once, twice a week sometimes, just dealing from my previous relationship and letting all that go. And then it simultaneously just going to another dimension with God and
Mhm.
learning how to access some of my spiritual gifts, which I never knew I had. And just falling in love with the whole process of what that even feels like, looks like. And so I was doing that. And then it was January 1st. I went to the ocean and I took my notebook and I'm like, all right, what do I want in a man? Let's just get clear because I've gotten clear about everything else. I have my vision boards about my businesses, and I'm like, why don't I get specific and really articulate what I want? And so I was actually talking to one of my mentors on the drive to the ocean, or I lived on the ocean, but I was driving to like get down there. And we were talking about what I was about to do, and he goes, "Okay, Emily, don't go make a list of 30 things now. Like because he's like, make a list of the attributes of what you want in a partner. And he knew me. I was going to have this long thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, 10 things, circle the top five non-negotiables. Like you
Mhm.
will not waver. I was like, okay. So I go and I sit and I like pray over this whole thing. I'll never forget it. It was like sunset, New Year's Day. And I write out, love God is number one above else. like doesn't come in between me and God. I don't come in between. Like I look at it as even I wrote a triangle like this on my notebook, and it was like me, him, and then God's here, and then so if or if I'm pursuing God, he's pursuing God. We're like coming together, and that's a whole different type of relationship.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the number one thing I want. Number two, he has to be able to lead because I'm a leader. By my core innate behavior is to lead. If you take any personality test, it's just I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. I'm a red on the color code, but I'm like, I don't want to lead my relationship. I don't want to be your mom. I don't like,
Mm-hmm.
I need to have that polarity and I need to be attracted to you. And then I don't want you to take my stuff. I want you to put me in your place. So anyways, I write out this whole list. We could go on and on. And I start staring at it every day. And I'm like, who do I need to become to attract that man? Who do I need to become to attract that man? And I'm like, I need to become a godly woman if I want to attract the godly man.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I gotta cover I can't be skimpy all the time. Like I can't be coming off some kind of way. Like I need to really take myself more seriously. And so I just started diligently doing that work. And I met him a month and a half later by accident. And
By
and it
accident or by
but
coincidence or
by
by divine
coincidence,
timing?
by divine timing. And it was the kind of thing where like my business partner brought him into one of our businesses and I did a business 3-way call with him. And I'm so professional. I work with so many men. I speak with so many men. I'm in a man's world a lot of the times. And I just don't play that game. So I'm so professional. And we get off the phone and basically we were in Tampa. I was doing a piece for NBC. Then I was running a huge event and I had to fly from Tampa to LA. And this guy who's Jake, he was like, hey, I'm speaking at an event. We've got the guy from Shark Tank there, Robert Herjavec, and we've got a few other like big names that are going to be there. I could really use some of your products for my booth because they like do all these booths. Do you think you could like stop by and bring the products? And then, if you have a chance, I'd love you to hear me speak. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like jet lag back and forth. I got to shower. I got to get my dog. I'm like, usually I don't do this crap. I'm like, my assistant can run it out. And I'm like, yes, I'll be there. So I'm like, I don't even know this guy. I don't even, and my business partner's like, please just do it for me. So I go drive from Santa Monica to Burbank, which if anybody knows LA, it's a good, healthy drive, especially in traffic. I show up, I go to the booth, I drop off the products and I see this big, like his pictures on the side of the booth, like this billboard. And I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, well, where is the guy? I'm here. Like, what? I don't have time. This is me. I don't have time. Like, where's the guy? And they're like, he's preparing for his speaking. And I'm like, oh, okay. And his assistant at the time was like, he'll be down in a moment. So he comes down and, he's like 6'7", like he's tall. So he comes down and it was like the wind was blowing in my face. It was like my hair was like, and it didn't register to my brain even what was happening, but I was like, hi. And my whole nervous system shifted. And I don't get like that. I don't like, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, who is this guy? And he's like, nice to meet you. I would love to talk to you a little bit later, but I got to go in. And he goes in backstage and completely like just ignored me kind of. And so I go sit. I don't know if you want me to keep going with this.
Yep. We go. I'm like in it, but we got a few more minutes because we
Yeah.
got one more question.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I go in, I hear him speak, and I see this blend of like intelligence, but also love and depth that he has. And I was like, who is this guy? So that was the start. And then at the end of that day, he was like, hey, there's a gala, Demi Moore's hosting. I have a table. Would love for you to be the date. And I'm like, I need a dress. I need this, whatever. I'll go. And so that's basically how this whole thing started.
But the whole thing started because you had those core values in place. And are those also the same core values that you have for even like your friendships? Because you mentioned like even your friends are all on board. And I think, just like a season in our business and a season in our life, we also have a season with our friendships. And being very clear that are we growing together or do I feel like we're in crabs in a bucket right now?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So my inner circle is very tight and it wasn't always. And I love everybody. And I have friends of every different background, every different belief, truly. That's how I live. But my inner circle, my friends that are like my real friends, they are very devout in their work, their life. They're very honorable women. They challenge me. They pray for me, vice versa. It's very real. There's depth. There's like, how are you really, Emily? And so I have a core group that, when I decided, or actually I just had got clarity because I met a good woman and I was like, whoa, I've never had this kind of relationship before. Like, wow, this is like really a beautiful, honest relationship. But iron sharpens iron, and we both are sharpening each other on many different levels, not just like, oh, we have these seven-figure whatever businesses. It's like, no, there's like depth to our relationship, and that's what my soul craves, and I'm sure everybody's does. And so I just realized I need to make this a priority. I need to make these people a priority, which I didn't before because I quite honestly felt like I didn't have that equal energy exchange with most relationships. And so it's everything. It's like, are they pursuing loving their spouse, or are they like, you know, cheating on them? Like we I don't know why we hang out with people that don't match what we value. Like, because eventually you're going to become a product of your environment, no matter how strong you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your ecosystem is everything. And especially if like somebody like yourself, where you're a visionary, you're, a world shaker, transformational coach and speaker, like that ecosystem. I don't know if you watched the movie with Whitney Houston, but somebody with like that's a legend. Her ecosystem was so toxic that eventually it pulled her down. It doesn't matter
Oh
how
yeah.
great you are or how your work ethic is. If your ecosystem is not enriched, you will become a byproduct of that. And so I think like that's why I like asking these type of questions, because it's the different story, but the same common pattern for all of my guests. And
Mm,
it's really important. But we
yeah.
also have to become that. You've done a lot of
Oh,
work to become a woman, which
and you gotta, and that's what people don't get. I had, at one of my last events, because I have, my mentorship program, and she asked a question, and she was like, "Do I really have to like pay to be in an inner circle?" And I was like, "Well, first of all, this is like mentorship, and it's not free, honey. Because if it was, then like I wouldn't have a life at all." But what I was explaining to her was like, you want to sit at certain tables, but like because you haven't done the work, people caliber are not going to feel like they can even be themselves because they feel like they need to constantly mentor you. And I say that out of love, like you have to earn the right to sit at certain tables. And, it's so true. Like, because again, so many people are like, wish I could just come hang out with you. And I'm like, no, because you would drain me and you would literally like, no way.
that's what coaching is for. That's what the mastermind, the inner circle. But you're right. I think I heard it from the first person I ever heard it from. I don't know if she created it because, we all learn so many things, but she said, you earn your way, you pay your way, or you serve your way.
Oh,
And I was like,
that's good.
Stormy Wellington. I heard it from Stormy Wellington. And I was like, that's true. Everything that I've done to earn the right to sit at a table, I had to pay my way, earn my way, or serve my way.
Pay, earn,
Last
and
question,
serve,
because I
love.
know we're out of time and I really value your time. But if you could leave the audience watching live or watching the replay, one thing that you know would impact their life if they integrated today and on a day by day basis, something simple, not too complicated, what would that one thing be?
Oh, goodness, easy. I recommend that they do 10 by 10 by 10
But
every single day. Okay. So what that looks like is 10 minutes of prayer and worship, 10 minutes of Bible reading, and then 10 minutes of a book. And if you do 10 by 10 by 10, you are going to see and feel such a huge shift in your life. And maybe you're like, I don't have 30 minutes. Well, you could then do, 10 by 10, maybe read the Bible, do prayer and worship, whatever, however you want to do it. But this little framework is game changer because it's just like, it allows you to like really listen. It allows you to ask with prayer. You're listening through worship, speaking through worship, and then reading God's word, right? So you're now receiving what he wants you to hear, and then just improving your intellect and your knowledge by reading something great. I think it's the perfect thing.
I will say, like, I know for me, the way that I learn best is by like the audios because I have to hear it. And then the reading, I could like just stare at a page for like ever and I'm like, hold on. But if I hear it being spoken to me, so I know when I started getting into prayer, a lot helped me when actually going to service and going to church and getting involved in smaller groups because I didn't understand half the stuff the Bible was saying.
Yeah.
My brain could not interpret it. I was like, what thou art be saying?
Yeah. Yes. So no. I love it. And my Bible is like a Joyce Meyer one, so it breaks it down. But I completely agree.
Because I want to let people know
Yeah.
because sometimes you made it sound so simple, but I was like, on my journey, it wasn't. I wish I would have gotten a little bit different guidance.
No, I use like the basic message Bible, like and not, girl, I'm not a thou art thou kind of chick. No, I'm not either. Trust me.
I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what is the name of it? Joyce? You said
It's the
Joyce something.
Joyce Meyer one. I'll find it so you can link it
Okay.
in the notes here. But I definitely, though, to echo what you said about the church thing, I mean, that's the game changer for
Yeah.
sure, is like plugging into a church that speaks to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for dropping so many diamonds and just valuable information and sharing your personal story. You've just been such a blessing today, this last hour and 10 minutes. And I know a lot of people on here got to find so much value. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you hanging out with us today. If you found value in this episode, subscribe and share with your business besties. Head over to TanyaCOliver.com and claim your free thank you gift. Remember, you deserve to look, feel, and live life as your most elite self.